So I put up the slides of the SDG. Are you guys familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals? A raise of hand if you are. Wow, this is beautiful. Okay, cool. So Carrie Bannigan here does many things. It's very difficult to describe what you do. And probably you're saturated with information, but stick with us because it's very important. So Carrie Bannigan works in collaboration and partnerships with the United Nations and with two projects in particular. One that's called the SDG Media Zone. Have you heard of the SDG Media Zone? Some of you? So the SDG Media Zone is essentially a sort of like a TV show, almost like The View, almost, but for all things related to the Sustainable Development Goals. And the other project that Carrie also leads is the Conscious Fashion Campaign. And I wanted to start with, so the title of this panel is How Do We Know Things Are Well Made? And one of them is through certifications, right? It's like looking at the labels and someone saying, this is amazing, and then you feel amazing. And so this is how we know it's well made. But Carrie has a very innovative way to looking at it, and through the Conscious Fashion Campaign has done incredible work with trade shows and with brands in labeling and in certifying, unofficially certifying, but definitely helping communicate the kind of efforts brands are doing through the Sustainable Development Goals and adding those goals to the clothes. So tell us why you chose the word conscious instead of sustainable, for example.
First of all, thank you all for having me. Thank you for putting this all together. It's amazing to see where you went from LA, New York, United Nations, and now here in London. It's fantastic. When we were thinking about what we could do to really bridge the gap between the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and the fashion industry, we had to really look at what was going on and what was happening in the market. And I think, a lot of people have said today sustainability has become such a buzzword. Some people don't trust it anymore. Some people don't even know what it means. It's become so saturated. I still love sustainability because of what it means to me as a person and what I see the changes happening with the industry. But when you want to go then mainstream, because we have to start affecting and communicating with the masses, or we're never going to see the change that needs to happen on the horrific timelines that we're being told. Change needs to be implemented. So for Conscious, it's because that for me and the people involved, when we were looking at this project to launch, was it's about knowledge, awareness, mindfulness. And I think with that, sustainability is all encompassed and still comes within the conscious sector. Sustainability is very focused in my eyes on looking after the planet, making sure we avoid depletion of resources and so on. I don't have to describe to this crowd. But for Conscious, we wanted to also make sure we were being a lot more inclusive. And what does that mean? We should be looking to embrace all the changes people are making. You see the impact programs, the matching programs, people giving back to their communities. Are they all 100% sustainability at this time? Are they even 70%? No. But we're getting there and we're trying to get there. And so the Conscious Fashion Campaign is really trying to learn about what everybody is doing in the industry and for people not to feel shamed or judged and be able to come forward and share the work that they are doing, because without collaborating, we're not going to reach the goal that we need to.
Absolutely. And so oftentimes when we work with brands ourselves through the Slow Factory and with the Bear Scout as our partner, we oftentimes feel that brands are like, we don't want to be sustainable. We don't want to say we're sustainable, or we don't want to, do any kinds of efforts that are going to be communicated because we don't want to be called out of greenwashing, or we don't want to be, sustainability means perfect almost, and they are very, it blocks people from engaging or from even trying something different. And so I think what you came up with the SDGs, with the Conscious Fashion Campaign, is very brilliant. Can you explain to us how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. We're still in new launch mode. We've spent the last 8 months in a lot of discovery and research. And our main goal, the Conscious Fashion Campaign, looks to champion fashion brands that put impact at the forefront of their business. And specifically for us, that is aligning with the Sustainable Development Goals behind us. And so with that, we found that the main touch points of interest for us were retail and media. And with that being, you've got fashion brands that are launching with good in their DNA. It's wonderful to see these days that brands launch and giving back doing well and making sure their customers know what's going on, but they benefit from their product is becoming the norm. Slowly and surely, and it's wonderful to see because it was not like that 15 years ago in the industry. And you've also got the existing fashion houses that are looking to better their practices. What that means is different between each brand because they all have different goals and different things that they need to achieve and different demographics and customers. So for us, we saw a gap between how these fashion brands are then connecting with their consumer. And again, it comes back to very staggering statistics about how can we make change faster. And it does come back to consumers have a lot of power. But before the consumers have power, I think there's also sometimes very missing in the conversation the power that the retailers have and the power that media holds in our society. We look at the advertising world, we look at the magazines, the blogs, content on our social medias that does influence a lot of what is happening in the marketplace. And the same with retailers. We have our trusted, curated experience. When you go into your favorite store, you know that they have got what you want somewhere in there because it's an experience that you've been a loyal customer with for a long time. So the Conscious Fashion campaign has taken the approach of working with trade shows and stores themselves, as well as advertising industry and your traditional media, to see how we can communicate better what is going on and to give businesses and brands a chance to show the good that they are doing. As you've seen all day on this stage today, whether in person or video presentations, the industry is making huge strides. This used to be an industry that thrived on competition. What was the hottest thing coming out on the runway? Who was unveiling it first? Who could make sure that they showed that fabric first for that season? Now I think it's so exciting to work in the industry where you see pure collaboration, findings, insights, data sharing. It was discussed here earlier, and it's incredible. And so in order for this to push the needle forward and really make change, we have to give the industry more support. And I think there's a big responsibility on retailers and media to do that.
And you've really included the buyers in educating buyers. Buyers have also so much power. I know we talked about media has power, consumer has power, but buyers who choose and select the kind of aesthetics or styles or who effectively bridge the gap between brands and consumers and are able to introduce to consumers all the way and by educating them as well, you've offered them some very important tools in very simple ways just by working with the SDGs. Can you explain to us how the Conscious Fashion campaign went from an idea into physical product almost, because you kind of created this unofficial certification by yourself in a way. It is not a certification because the Sustainable Development Goals don't act as a certification, but because they're becoming more and more consumer friendly and like we've seen, who knows the SDGs, everybody raised their hands, you were able to kind of play with them a little bit like Legos and put them on garments in a way that when someone sees a garment with some of the SDGs on it, they're like, oh, this is good for my planet, or oh, this was done in a responsible process. Can you explain to us how you achieved that? And I know you've been into research, but you've executed it. You piloted the project. So tell us a bit how it went.
Yeah, and I'd say pilot is the key point because now we're working out and definitely taking big strides now to see what we did. The first step that we took was to actually work with the trade shows because, as you said, that's where the buyers are. We wanted to see the interest that they had. There are so many sustainable and impact brands at these trade shows now, but they don't necessarily always have the budget to be at the forefront or a big booth or anything like that. And so we went to trade shows, and I think they're still here. Pure London is one of our, they're here, is
Yay.
a fantastic trade show here in the UK, and I'm sure the audience is very familiar with them. But we're one of our main key partners and one of the first believers in this project to step in the UK market with us. We were doing a lot already in the US. And the goal is at the trade shows was to create this pop-up experience, if you will, of a collaboration, bringing all the looks together of impact and sustainable and ethical brands that are on the show floor. But in this experience, it was a place where retailers could come and just learn more about each brand. And so while we are not, and we don't plan to be nor wish to be a certification. There's already so many amazing things in the market. We use the tagging system actually as a path and platform for communication. And so when people are looking at this look that's been put together on a mannequin or a beauty product or accessory at the trade show floor, they, on the tag, can learn, obviously, the brand's name, their social, or the very crucial stuff these days, but information about what the brand is doing for good, and then on there, the goals that align with the brand or the top goals that make sense for that brand. And it's so interesting that the retailers find it as a very simple and quick method. And then on there is also the booth number. So you're watching a retailer be very intrigued by a beautiful built installation, learning about what that product can do and is doing. And the reality is, as humans, we all have our touch point of what means something to us. So it could be whether the buyer is there representing and climate means something to them as a business, if it's about education and gender equality or life above water and underwater, it might mean something to them too personally. We all have our causes that strike a chord with us, whether it's through our personal stories, history, or whatever. And so we found that something we thought would just be almost a directional signage really sparked conversation between these buyers learning, and again, coming back to being conscious, that knowledge share and the awareness, and then going to speak to these brands and wanting to do business with them. And that's what it also comes back to, right? If we're in an industry that's valued at 2.4 trillion, wouldn't it just be fantastic to be able to shift the needle through the power of these buyers and them just moving a little bit more of their spend and their in-store budget to purchase products that are giving back? And I'm not saying we need to keep buying more, but retail is not going to stop anytime soon. So why not encourage stores to stock better so that their consumer can buy better?
That's brilliant. And so I know you started with like a lot of research. It was very much like a pilot project, like an experiment, right? It was an experiment. And so you were working hand in hand with brands, you know, you were yourself and your team getting to know more and more what the process was like to create the garments, what the ethics are behind the brand, and helping them translate their ethics and translate their efforts in the SDGs. Like some of them would just randomly pick maybe SDGs and you would go and verify the process. How do you see this going in the next 3 years? How do you see yourself maybe, is it possible to automate this process? And what are your thoughts to growing what you've started as a pilot to making it a lot more accessible, let's say, to more people, because you have a super cool team, but then you need 100 more people to manage the industry. So how are you going to scale this?
It's a very interesting question, and if after people learn about this, they have answers and ideas, please come forward, because what started as an idea to be about communication has definitely become something that we are now working on day and night, because although we knew the industry needed this, we didn't know if the industry knew they needed this. And so what's been amazing is the support globally. And with that means the more success is going to be more hands on deck and learning more. We are looking at how do we automate this? What does this mean? And there's so many great models out there that we could look to replicate or learn from in the business sector. But I think we're still in that place of being very involved. And I think, you know, you've just asked me what I wake up with every morning, like, okay, now what? Right? Because again, for us, it's the partnerships and the collaborations are key. We are not looking to create anything new. We are looking to integrate with the power players already in the space, the trade shows, then the stores themselves. What can they communicate? And you talk about the consumers, and this was touched point earlier. There's all these certifications that are coming out. And it's amazing within the business sector and what we can do to achieve and strive as brands and designers and manufacturers and companies. But has that yet translated in communication to the consumer? I don't think yet. And I think of my mom, when she just goes shopping as your average consumer into a store, she might not know what these things mean, the letter for being a B Corp or, you know, anything, to
like
be honest.
A green label or...
Yeah, they're just not there yet. And so we are very focused on helping brands grow via the support of retailers, the buyers, as you say, and then the media. And I think the reality when you comment about we translate the SDGs and the work that brands are doing, the reality is so many brands are already doing good. It's just the norm within their business. They just might not yet have connected it with the SDGs or know about this conversation that's going on.
And so maybe we have a few moments to open up the floor. This is our last panel. I would love for you all to, Colin, if you can put the slide back, to follow the Conscious Fashion campaign, see where they're at coming next. If you have ideas on how to contribute in their automation and growth, the Conscious Fashion campaign and Carrie Bannigan from the United Nations. This has been such an important day. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of it. Thank you, Carrie, for the important work that you do and for just being overall a champ in sustainability and consciousness and so on. Thank you to all the speakers that came today. This is a little bit like last panel, closing panel. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. We'll get you a mic. Carrie and I had the opportunity to collaborate together on many occasions, and one of them was, well, it's thanks to Carrie Bannigan that we were invited to the United Nations to do a first study hall there on February 1st, and it was a great success. We loved it very much, so much so that we're going to be there every year.
We're going to make it annual.
Yes, we're going to make it annual. We're very excited. We're very, very excited for this opportunity. So the next study hall at the UN is on January 31st in New York. So if you want to come, please do. In between now and then, we have a study hall on August 22nd in San Francisco, and the theme is going to be sustainability and technology, and how is technology, some of it is empowering the sustainable or conscious or eco and social justice movement, and how are some of the technologies, an opportunity, just like Juicy said, when you talk about problems, it's definitely an opportunity. So some technologies like e-waste and sourcing, the sourcing of precious metal through e-waste and so on. And of course, we're going to be discussing the Sustainable Development Goals, and we will be working with Carrie more closely, hopefully, in this Conscious Fashion campaign and bringing awareness to through people, buyers, and the entire industry. Did you want to add anything that I forgot about all the work that we did, that we do separately together, the Conscious Fashion campaign, the United Nations?
All right, well, I know people have been taken in so much today. I think everyone's ready for the after party, I'm sure. But I think one thing I just wanted to actually say a big thank you to you, just bringing together and convening all these change makers, having the courage to now take it global. I think it's fantastic. And just a huge round of applause to you and your team. And I can't wait to keep collaborating and supporting your work.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank you to Central St. Martin's for trusting me in this space and trusting my team. Thank you to Fashion Revolution. I love you so much, guys. Thank you to Adidas and G-Star, YouTube, Chalik Denim for trusting us, for empowering us, and for Just Water for hydrating us. And thank you to the United Nations for trusting me. Thank you to MIT Media Lab who trusted me in the beginning and kind of kickstart this amazing project.